We have Mr. Etheridge for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I come at this debate from a somewhat different view, I think, to many colleagues here, and certainly it's one of the few debates since I've been here that I can speak from the perspective of pure personal experience. I was in the steel industry, stainless steel and aluminium, for 20 years, and I worked in the service and stockholding sector during that time. I started off with British Steel Stainless and then moved on to a variety of companies across Europe, Avesta, ThyssenKrupp being most notable amongst them. And what I noticed during that time was the importance of the variety of areas you can import from to be able to service your customers correctly. Tariffs and a trade war with the United States would be absolutely devastating to this market sector. What we have to think about is that it would not just make it difficult to import sometimes qualities of steel that you can't always get domestically or from within the EU, but also the situation is that domestic mills will grow in power, will grow in size. Now you may think that that's a good thing, but of course when competition is beaten away by a huge giant, then of course you lose price competition, you lose quality competition, you lose many of the aspects that made steel stockholding and service centres such an integral part of the manufacturing economy in the UK and across Europe. I think that when you look at the tariff and counter-tariff argument, all the end result will be is an endless spiral of unemployment and of industry crashing down. I understand what President Trump's doing. There's cases of dumping on the market, most notably from China, which is tantamount to trade war. It's an effort to destroy domestic production, wipe them out so that they can then control the market. It's obvious, and there must be measures against dumping. I think many of us would agree. But to take it on to a tariff war would be a catastrophic error. And this is not just me speaking. This is coming from voices within the steel industry. We're concerned, many people, about the devastating and paralysing impact of these tariffs, because all it would seem you're hearing is the lobby voice of the big manufacturer, the big mill. Think about the service sector, the stockholder, the medium-sized business, who actually look after the end users, who are the people who have to provide the skill and the technological information that goes into it. We must be fighting hard for tariff-free trade across the world, and certainly with the USA. I hope an independent UK will be able to do a tariff-free trade deal with the United States of America. But also, really for the sake of the world economy, I hope the EU can do the same, because I don't want to see people losing their jobs and their livelihoods anywhere. Let's forget the political differences and focus on the reality of jobs and employment in our economies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Etheridge. Mr. Etheridge, will you accept a blue card from Mr. Rodriguez-PIñERO Fernández, please?
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. You've just indicated how important it is to have a trade agreement between the UK and the US to avoid trade wars. I suppose you will accept that Canada and Mexico have also been threatened by the US, and they have a free trade agreement, and they are renegotiating a free trade agreement, and that has served no purpose. So if the US does impose tariffs on the European Union, even though the Commission is trying to avoid any trade war, what solution would you advocate if that were to be the case?
I believe the role of politicians, the Commission for the EU, the politicians for the UK, wherever you talk about, one of the main roles of politicians is to facilitate free trade so that we can all get wealthier. We want all to get wealthier. Now, I understand what you're saying, and I understand that Mr. Trump's actions have sparked much of this. I don't agree with tariffs. I want a world free of tariffs so we can all trade freely and compete. In the short term, what we must do is speak to each other and stop this devastating trade war. It benefits nobody, and we must work together to stop this, and by organising free trade and having discussions.